Okay, it's live o'clock. Good to see you. Hello, welcome. I am just gonna flip this over, make sure it all works. You can all see me, it all makes sense, you can all hear me. Look at this, okay, I'm gonna plug that in there. Okay, welcome, hello, good to see you. Happy Fridays to you. TGIF, whatever you want to call it. Happy Fridays. I'm sitting here in my office. It's Friday. As you can tell, I'm not at Dramfest. So, for everyone who is at Dramfest, I'm deeply envious of you, and I hope you have the most amazing time in New Zealand, in celebrating all good things whiskey. Dramfest is quite an experience. It's quite a fantastic little festival. It's grown into quite something big these days. That happens every 2 years, and this is a Dramfest year. It also coincides with every 2 years that we do the Malt Whisky Tasting Championships, which tickets will be available as early as next week, but still a few things to iron out there in the organisation of which. I want to say, do a big shout out tonight to Jay Hodes, BB770, Check Yourself, Whisky Soros, Ali's Whiskies, Matthew Blatchford, Eway0713, Halfman Half Whiskey. I like that name. Matt Music MW. I think that describes me pretty well. Half man, half whiskey. Yeah, that one works for me. Okay, cool. Hello everyone. This is great. This is great fun being here. Where will I start? Now, first of all, I want to say a huge happy Outturn day to you all. And I'm enjoying a dram in having a nice quiet Friday night, which is unusual for me. I normally don't get to do streams on Friday nights. A lot of Friday nights tonight because I'm hosting an event or working with Andrew somewhere. But we had an office day today at the Society here, and taking an opportunity to enjoy a lovely whiskey here that I can't tell you anything about. Doesn't that suck? Only because it's an upcoming sample of a release that we're working on at the moment, one that we're considering for local release. So, today was Outturn Day. This was Malt of the Month, 1.214 Indulge Your Sweet Tooth. This is the one I meant to preview maybe a week ago. We've had some troubles with our warehouse. We want to make sure that it's all ironed out though. So this is an 8-year-old single cask first fill ex-bourbon from Distillery 1, the distillery that started it all at the Society. 214 Indulge Your Sweet Tooth. I might get a chance to review that next week, see how we go. I've got a different dram in my glass tonight, but I thought I'd show Malt of the Month. I might not get a chance to enjoy that though, because this sealed bottle probably ended up going to a member straight from my office instead of the warehouse, because it did sell out today. It only took about 3 hours. Malt of the Month sold out. I'm very sorry, 33.138 is gone. Gone. Like, totaled, finished. The rush on that 33 today was absurdly quick. So I want to apologise for those who missed out. But the good news is there's lots of other lovely peated whiskey coming through the pipeline, especially in the next few months. And especially as we lead into winter shortly. Some great whiskey coming through the pipeline then as well. But what I will preview for you tonight, if you want to ask any questions, I'm always open to questions being asked on the stream here. I can't get over how good Half Man Half Whiskey is as a username. Whisky Saurus, good to see you. Yeah, Calby Chan, good to see you. Whiskey Man Sam. Sam, hope you're well, mate. Really good to catch up with you last week. Albeit very briefly, I think it was on a Thursday night or something, or a Friday night. Always love catching up with familiar faces in the industry. For those who don't know, Sam is an ambassador of whiskey himself, quite new to the trade, if you don't mind me saying, and you're doing a marvellous job representing McHenry's, so just keep up with it. Ducket Bucket joined. I'm happy here to troll me as always, Louis. Some Rowan guy joined. Monster of Malt joined. Good to see you all. Jim, good to see you. So I'm having a dram right now because it's been a big week. It's been a big Friday. Outturn was massive today. Really appreciate all your members coming in and buying what you're after, and appreciating what we do at the Society, because what we're about is single cask whiskey and amazing experiences. I've talked about it a number of times. You know what we're about. But today, and I know it's running late, Outturn should have arrived in your physical form in the mail. The good news is there's still heaps from Outturn available. I haven't actually opened this one yet. Now it says on the front here, I did design it, but I'm not going to keep it. An exciting announcement and your March Outturn. So that's exciting. What do we got here? So the letter, look at this, here we go. Everything's in one spot here. There you go. There's the Outturn, which you've all seen, already know and love. I'm going to see if I can balance that. Nope, I'm going to put that there. And the delightful new unfiltered magazine. It's got a bit of a foil cover because it's a special edition. Once you read it, you'll work out why. And why would I troll you? I would never do that. You're full of it. You're full of it. Whiskey Man saying, cheers, mate. Far too kind. Great to catch up. Yes, indeed, mate. Good to catch up. Staying at B&B 10 kilometres from Henry. Should go, I guess, yeah. Oh, staying at a B&B. Sorry, I read that quite literally then, J-Hodes. Staying at a B and a B. But here you go. Here's a nice letter that came through for everyone, for all the members, about the change in branch, and your new pin was attached to the top of the letter there. Every member got the pin in the mail, which is fantastic, and it looks great. I'm really happy with the way that's turned out. So there you have it. So what was I going to talk about tonight? Well, I was just going to say happy Outturn Day, really, and just a chance for us to have a discussion about some of the casks that were in it, and maybe what's already, all I know that has vanished so far is Malt of the Month, which is this one right here, the 1.214. And predictably, the 33-138, which got a marvellous write-up from Andrew as well, and was a true hit from our Outturn, a premium bottling from Distillery 33, a real piece of history there. But what I really want to touch on, I've talked about some of the events before, but I've talked about some of the casks in Outturn over the last week, but I want to talk about some of the events coming up, if you don't mind, if you can indulge me for a moment. And answer your questions as we go as well. Bob Wenting, massive thanks to you, Bob, for that video you sent me. Thank you so much. Benjamin Thwaites joined, good to see you. I'll be honest, Half Man, Half Whiskey says, not sure what the SMWS is about. Keen to read up on it and hopefully get involved. Mate, that's what it's all about. It's all about good whiskey, single cask whiskey. If I'm to give you the 2-second pitch, Half Man, Half Whiskey, every single whiskey we release is single cask, cask strength, panel approved, non-chill filtered, natural colour, the most purest form of what whiskey can be from the widest range of distilleries on earth. We're the world's biggest independent bottler, but we're also the world's biggest whiskey club. So what we do is we present events, experiences, tours, all around the world, all around Australia, and all around the world. So I can shoot you some more information, I can DM you some more information there. But the best way to discover the society is through our events. It really is. It's where you get to dram with like-minded people and discover some amazing flavours and experiences that we put on every month. Now, Adelaide Cheese and Whiskey Pairings is coming up. If you're based in Adelaide, if you're based in South Australia at all, if you have any friends in South Australia, get them to go along to that. It's going to be great. Jenny really knows how to do her pairings. She's fantastic at it. Wollongong, I'm hosting that one. That's next week, 13th of March, same night. So that's almost sold out, actually. I think there's only like 5 or 6 tickets left for that one. Hobart, come along to the Hobart one. Louis, I better see you there. Ali, Ali, I'm not sure you can make it, I think you said, but anyone who's in Hobart, anyone who's in Tasmania, anyone who's in Launceston, etc., come along to that. I'm going to pull out some truly delicious whiskies from our new selection of stock that's just landed. And then fast forward about a week, and Andrew's hosting the Grand Tour of Speyside, and I'm hosting the Single Cask Sunset Whiskey Cruise in Melbourne. They're both going to be marvellous nights. The good news is there's still tickets for the Melbourne cruise left. There are no longer any tickets for the Sydney Grand Tour of Speyside left. Yeah, check yourself. I know it's you, Regan. That's okay. Jay Hodes writes, got the 2 bottles I wanted from my first Outturn, so I'm happy. We'll catch up later with stream. Cheers, mate. Thanks, Jay Hodes. Good to see you. That'd be magic. Thanks for that. Much appreciated. No problems. Sable Scotch joined. Good to see you. Okay, so I had a great question from Check Yourself about website crashes and Outturn allocations and ballots and things like that. It was a pretty broad-reaching question which is probably pertinent to today's issue. If you tried to log on today to the Society website and purchase a bottle right on Outturn time at midday, which is when everything goes live, you'd be a little bit disappointed because the site crashed about 3 or 4 times, and each time that crashed for about 15-20 seconds at a time. It was very, everyone was trying to rush for that 33.138. Most people who wanted one got one. I know there are a few members who missed out, I'm sorry. That's the way it goes, that's the nature of single cask. I personally think we got a very healthy allocation. We got 48 bottles to share around. It was 47 on the website when we went live, because one bottle went to Whisky and Element, of course. Which, if you're in Melbourne or Victoria, or you're passing through Melbourne, and you want to taste that 33.138, I wouldn't delay. It's not going to hang around on the bar very long. So the question was, how do we manage that moving forward? Trust me, after today's little crashes on the site, and last time we saw this was the Christmas Outturn, we're going to take some measures in place to look at how we can improve the release of our bottlings so it's not all just on the Friday. So we're moving towards a system at the moment. We've had a chat about it this afternoon. We've talked about this before. This is not a new discussion at the Society, behind staff doors, I should say. We've had a discussion before about how to improve the overall member experience when it comes to accessing bottles on Outturn. So when we have something like a 33 to 138, which is a hugely desirable cask at a very, I'd say a very fair price as well, a very good price for a single cask Ardbeg. If you don't believe me on that, have a look at what other single cask core range bottlings of Ardbeg go for. We're talking $2,000 up, and this was a $375 bottle. So while $375 is not a small amount of money for a good whiskey, it's certainly not going to be. It's certainly not an absurd amount. So where was I? So the crash is an issue because we want members to be able to access what they want, and we don't want members having to constantly get the Cloudflare or 404, whatever 504, whatever the page breaking code is on the site over and over and over, and then when they finally do log in, they've missed out. What that means is it ends up preferencing those with a better internet connection. So if you live in Sydney with a great cable or if you live in Sydney with a great cable or NBN connection, you're probably preferenced for when it goes back on live online, when the site goes back live. If you live rurally, and a lot of our members do, they live in the country, they live rural WA, wherever they are, then they're going to miss out. And that's not fair just because they don't have a better internet connection to access all the benefits of membership. Especially if they're rural, they probably don't have access immediately to a partner bar either. So, how do we beat this challenge? There's a few ways around it. One of them is release certain bottlings a day before, release them in batches in the previous 3 days. Let's say there's 30 bottles or something, release 10 bottles each day. Or that complicates it a bit, but another option we looked at is, of course, going back to balloting. Now, there's been a lot of discussion online, I've noticed, in one certain Brook Laddie group and a few others about ballots, about putting bottles into ballot again, where you have to email ballot@smws.com.au to secure the bottle. It's not going to be available just on the website at Outturn. And I prefer that. I think that's a very fair way of doing things, because each time we get a ballot, use the Jazz Trio as an example. We had 10 sets, I think, or 12 sets of the Jazz Trio, so 12 times 3 bottles of those Jazz Trio. It was a $3,000 set of 3 very old whiskies from Distillery 24. Very desirable. Very desirable as a set. What we did was we put them into what's called a ballot, and you had to enter the ballot, email the ballot saying, I am interested, to qualify us then putting you in the draw. Then each of the names that went into the ballot was randomly selected with a random name selector in application to pick out who gets it. It keeps it entirely egalitarian. It keeps it very fair. And I think that's the best way to do it. Now, the third option, of course, is to get a wild upgrade in our server, in our hosting. We've looked into this as well. It's hideously expensive. We are looking at different options at the moment, maybe a managed VPS, maybe different things like that. I won't go into too much detail right now, but then we do have to start adjusting the price of bottles a little bit to justify the cost of these things. And it's like, if we're spending thousands of dollars a month on hosting, suddenly it's like, well, it's really frustrating because we're only spending thousands then on one day, and it's like we only need that powerful hosting on one day. We need like a spike. So instead of anticipating that spike and paying for it, why don't we just stagger it a bit more or go for ballots? So I think you'll see a few more bottles coming through the next few months. There's some special releases coming which will be ballot only, and it will be fairly distributed completely randomly. And I think that's the only way that we can really get around this kind of issue. If you've got any other suggestions, I'm all ears. But I'll be honest with you, even massive whiskey companies or distilleries, I should say, like Lafroig, routinely have cautious or facial releases that go up online, and then people around the world are trying to access them, and the whole site crashes for sometimes hours. And that's Lafroig. They've got a huge budget for this kind of stuff. It's Beam Suntory. So the little old society still has crashes. Even Ticketmaster crashes sometimes. So, but there's ways to get around this, and there's ways to work around it. Some guy says the great crash battle. Was happy I got what I wanted this time. Watching that 33 sell so fast was wild. Yeah, it was wild. Whiskey Sec, good to see you. We just ban people that don't live in the city. I'm glad you don't work for us, Rowan. Great Beyond Kerber, good to see you, Ryan. Hot dog extravaganza. Our hands never have luck with the ballot / raffles. Well, I mean, not all, don't say never. I mean, it is completely random, and some of the ballots we've put out there, our hands, have been very very contested, as in like lots and lots of entries. In fact, I think one in particular was one of the Vaults bottlings we did a ballot for. It may have been the 25.64 or whatever the code was on that one. It was a Vaults collection release from Distillery 25. Oh no, it was the 29. It was the Vaults collection from Distillery 29 in Isla. I think we had like 18 bottles in the country, and I think we had about 160 members entered for that ballot. So look, we can't. Not everyone wins all the times. How many members do we have in Australia? Just interested in seeing possibly how many members are trying to chase the same bottles. It's a couple of thousand, Regan. So it's hard because if we're sort of sitting on a few dozen bottles, and a lot of members just access the events that we do. A lot of members access the bottlings. A lot of members access the our blog. So people use the membership in different ways. Sometimes do all three. Sometimes they just use it for the discounts at the partner bars, etc. So yes. Whiskey and Wisdom, Andrew, good to see you. Hi from Christchurch. Matey 1964. Yes, I was just saying, Andrew, that we're all very envious of everyone who's over in Dramful right now. So, Dramful, Jamfest, God. Brooke Laddie just moved to ballots. Exactly. Yes, very strong contingent of Aussie SMWS members over here. Andrew, I'm expecting all the photos. Take all the photos. I'd love to see them all in action. I'd love to see photos from it all. I'm sure you do an amazing write-up on Whiskey and Wisdom. But if you've got a contingent, I'd love to see a group photo of Aussie members taking over New Zealand. What an experience that would be. So yeah, yes, you're right. You're right, hot dog. Yes. Where was I going with that? Sorry. Yes, Brooke Laddie for their rare releases. They're sort of every so often they'll release something a bit rare or unusual, and it will be something like a lot more than we release. It'll be sort of something like one of 2,000 bottles. And it will go to ballot. So they might get 6,000 people join the ballot. In our case, it's all scaled. We might get 48 bottles, but we'll get 300 people wanting it. So it's all very much scaled. And you've got to understand things like just casks 33.138 are hugely desirable for those who love that distillery. Not everyone's a peat head, so it's all down to personal preference. Regan asks, do we have a problem then of too many members versus not enough bottles? Hard question, I know. Yeah, look, it's always a balancing act, Regan. I mean, as you can see, some stuff does. I mean, I think the only problem we'd have is if the entire Outturn sold on the same day. And I'll be completely honest with you, we almost did have that problem about 3 or 4 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago, actually, I should say, where Outturn would be released, and then by 5 p.m. that same Friday, everything was gone. And we still see a little bit of that action happening, but that means what we always make mention of this, Regan, is that we're constantly topping up the site with other things from the warehouse. So in each Outturn, we release between 12 and 15 bottles normally, 12, 15 new casks. The Outturn, the allocations and the management of those of what we put in Outturn is mostly Andrew, and I help out a bit there. But it really is just like it's a case of us finding a balancing point of how many bottles to put in an Outturn and to manage the amount of stock coming in. But the thing is, Regan, it is allocations are scaled to membership. So as the membership grows, so do allocations. So it's only good. Membership growing is only a good thing because we get more bottles that way. That's a very good question though, and that's one that I think you might want to ask Andrew in more detail. In fact, not just Andrew as well. Andrew wrote an article on smws.com.au/news. If you scroll down a bit, it's called "What are allocations and how do they work?" And he goes into great detail about how our allocations work. So I'll let him explain that a bit more, or you can check that out on our website. It's all there. You know what? More and more as you get rid of that moth. More and more, as you've probably seen with the society, we are completely transparent with the way we do things. That's what we are at our core. We're a whiskey club. We exist for the service of our members. The more members we get, the more allocation we get, the more casks we're able to source, and the better it is for all of us. So, and the range increases, the allocations increase, but also the range of allocations increase. And we're going to see, I mean, in the next few months, we'll see even a wider diversity, I think, than we've ever seen through the society. There's some casks coming through in the next few months, which you think, I had no idea you'd ever see a, say, peated version of that whiskey, or an unpeated version of that one, or that cognac, or that rum kind of thing. And that's always exciting for me, because it's always testing the boundaries of flavour. The panel are being just as rigorous as always, if not more so. The pass rate, last time I heard, was between 55 to 58% pass rate from the panel, which is quite low when you think about it. That means only 1 in 2 really is making it through panel as good enough to be bottled as society. So there you go. Hello from New Zealand, Dramfest. Yes, rub it in, Gaucho. Hints, give hints, give hints. Okay, you know what, Hot Dog? Here are some hints. I'm going to give these hints away. There's 2 releases I'm going to show you right now that that I'll give you a far more in-depth talk about next week on the stream. We'll do a bit of a feature of it next week, and we'll announce the release dates. For those who remember, we do the Heresy releases. We do the releases which are Exotic Cargo, Pete Fairy, Old Fashioned. I'm sure there was one other one. Well, there's 2. Sorry, Exotic Cargo 1, Pete Fairy 1, Pete Fairy 2, Old Fashioned, and now the next 2 are coming out very shortly, which I'll preview for you right now. I'm holding them off screen at the moment, I think. Drum roll, please. No, I'll show you them both right now. Here we go. The first one is Battle Axe. Now, that's just landed, as you can tell I'm holding it. It is our... it says on the front label here, it is a blended malt Scotch whisky. They have all been blended malts, no grain. So they've got that rich, creamy blended malt character. They've all been bottled at 50% ABV, a nice punchy proof in them. Blended malt Scotch whisky, matured in a selection of ex-bourbon hogsheads from Islay. So exclusively hogsheads and exclusively from Islay, blended malt, that one. So it's quite a beefy, it's quite pale. It's all ex-bourbon though, and that's natural color like it should be. And of course it looks even more pale because it's in clear glass. So I'll show you that one right now, the Battle Axe, which is coming out very shortly. Keep an eye on the website for that. We'll announce it, it'll be in your inbox. And the other one I can preview for you now, I'll show you the label at least. It's almost off, I can almost see it on camera now, is of course Big Swirl. Big Swirl is basically a follow-up to Exotic Cargo. It's a completely sherry maturation, blended from all it says on the front is it's a blend of selection of sherry casks. So it could be sherry barrels, hogsheads, butts. It's a selection of sherry casks. It's a blended malt, nice rich dark color, a nice reddish hue to it. It says on the back here, this latest experimental expression draws from a combination of whiskies matured in full-term first fill Spanish oak sherry casks. Think about that for a second. This is all first fill Spanish oak sherry casks. So no refills, no second fills, as whatever. These are all first fill sherry casks, I should say, as well as as well as those matured in bourbon wood before over 2 years of extra marrying in first fill American oak sherry. So some bourbon casks that were finished in sherry and some full-term sherry. I know it's mostly full-term. The result is a dark, fruit-forward dram with a touch of spice mix, adding balance, complexity, and we're delighted to present it to members of the society, Big Swirl. So both of those releases, I'm going to put them just there so you can see them both and not knock over my whiskey. It wouldn't be the first time. Both of those fantastic, rich blended malts, very different from each other. I've not tried either of them. How cool is that? So I'm going to get to taste them for the first time next week. Watch the live stream. We might actually end up doing it Monday night. And I might have a special guest Monday night as well. So I'll see how I go with that. Japan Axe. Yeah, okay, well, cool. Jimmy Martin joined. Jimmy, good to see you, mate. Monarch Perth, good to see you. Yeah, Bob Winning, yum indeed. Yeah, so these are the 2 next blended malts in our Heresy range. The Battle Axe and the Big Swirl. They're going to be nicely priced. They're going to be lots of fun. They'll be released later this month. I'd confidently say later this month. We've got a release date. We need to work a few steps backwards still to make sure that works out okay. But this will be these will be coming out very soon. And the good news is we've got a heap of Big Swirl, which will be the popular one, I know. Peat isn't for everyone. Peat is an acquired taste. I get it. But the Big Swirl will be available as a rich delightful everyday kind of drinker for you on the website soon. We'll announce it soon. It'll be on our stories. It'll be in your inbox. Don't worry. And and you'll hear all about it. Lauren Holyoke. Anyway, Holyoke. Okay. Sorry. Welcome. Calpesh 8136 joined. Good to see Calpesh. I like it. Look, I like it too. Rusty Crunch Fist joined. You know what? There's going to come a point where someone with a certain username is going to sound a bit sort of rude to say on camera, so I'm not going to be able to introduce them. So I think Rusty Crunch Fist is getting up there, isn't it? When are the port cask blend releases being announced? Regan, the answer to that is when there's some good port cask whiskey that's good enough to blend. Ow! Yeah, I said that. Look, I'm not a huge fan of port cask whiskey, I'll be honest. I think port casks actually work remarkably well in some Australian whiskies. They work remarkably well in some Indian whiskies. And I've tasted a couple of Swedish whiskies that have worked very well in port casks. I've never really had a port cask Scotch whiskey, not too many at least, where I've gone, wow, that's an incredible whiskey that I would even buy again or have another dram of. I think some of them are okay. I think there's none that have really wowed me in terms of Scotch whiskey. We might see some port casks Australian whiskies through one day. I mean, like I said, we're working on a lot of things in local whiskey, but we're not. I don't think we're going to see anything in blended malts because A, it's not that commonly used. It's far less commonly used for that very reason. It doesn't react very well with spirit. And B, a bit like rum casks, it doesn't react amazingly with spirit, but when it does work well, it works really well. So yes, I'll concede that point. But we're probably more likely to see some port cask society single casks through in the next short while than we are to see any blended ones. sorry, Regan. That's just one man's opinion. Take it for what it's worth. But I'm just always a bit sort of skeptical of port casks being used in Scotch whiskey, in particular. I think they rank even lower than rum casks. And I like some rum casks. I've had a few rum cask whiskies that have found quite fascinating. I'm obviously bourbon casks for me are where the best of Scotch whiskey maturation is, and sherry casks would be a very close second of all sorts of varieties of different degrees. But there's a reason why even exotic wine casks can be quite challenging, can be a bit oversaturated, can be a bit hard work. I like them. There's got to be a right time and place for them. But anyway. Sorry to let you down, Regan. Did you try 16.39? Yes, I did. I actually did it on the live stream as well, Rowan. So it was in the office here. It's all gone now. I had just a small sample of it in the office. It was lovely. It was far more complex than I was even expecting because it's like you expected it to be a big... So, sorry, Regan, this is a good context. Rowan's asking about 16.39, which is a port cask. It was released last month. It was more than a month, in fact, I think. And it was, it was a port cask that had extra maturation in HTMC. And it was really quite, it was really charry, but really quite soft and delicate as well. That was a port cask I can get around. There's a few here and there, but most of the time I don't get too excited by them. Sorry. 29.190. Didn't think last went that high. Mate, we're up to 29. Hold on. Sable Scotch, we're up to, 27 or 29? Sorry, 29s are up to 290, not 190. I'm sure they are. Yeah, we saw 260 last year, 285 at one point last year as well, I think. So we're up to 290, I think, or somewhere at least there. Any 27s on the menu this year, Matt? Sable Scotch, you know what? I wish. I don't know. It's too early to tell if there's any on this year. If we see them, we'll see them. They don't look. It's a fairly closed door policy over there. They keep all of their own stocks for their own maturation. But when we see one come through, if we've got one sitting in our warehouse, it's doing the long stint, doing the long lie down, and then springing to life into a bottle form in maybe this year, next year, a year after. It's too early to tell. Too early to say. I wouldn't know. I'm sorry. 93.106 Red Diesel. Yeah, great. I remember that whiskey. I remember Red Diesel. You know what? If you're craving 27s, have a look at how good the 93s are. The distiller's around the corner from 27 and produces an arguably as good as, if not better, sometimes better whiskey. And people often overlook Glen Scotia as a distillery because they think it doesn't have that same sort of mysticism and maltiness that Springbank does, and I think Springbank even sounds cooler as a distillery name. So therefore it's Glen Scotia, who cares? Check out some of those Glen Scotias. There's always, almost, at the moment, like last 6 months, there's always been a 93 on the website, and they're not as popular as the 27s, and I don't really quite understand why. It's just the brand, it's just branding. There's some great whiskey coming out of 93. Anyway, well, hello there. Yes, check yourself. Are you making an Obi-Wan Kenobi reference just then, or am I just really dating myself with that one? Okay, well, look, that's all from me tonight. I really appreciate the questions, the great discussion, everything that has been coming through tonight, and me being able to preview something even just after Outturn Day of some goodies that are coming through the next 2 Heresy releases. You'll hear all about those in the coming weeks, of course. I might even preview them for you, give you some tasting notes, talk through them a bit more detail. I've got the full detail sheets, which are full documents on their maturation and their policy and everything. Transparency on these ones has been fantastic. Have a great night, everyone. Have a great Friday night, and I'll catch you all next week. Have a great weekend. Bye.